or buy in the LPG during the COVID period. We have also found that number of poor household has been increased from pre-COVID to post-COVID from 45 to 76%. And if you categorize poor into 4 categories, the household mostly during pre-COVID, most of the household are poor in multidimensional poor, severe multidimensional poor, but in post-COVID period, maximum household are found from multidimensional poor and severe multidimensional poor. The Pearson's chi-square test of independence is statistically significant, indicates that the different level of MPI before COVID and after COVID are dependent on each other. We have also found COVID affected and non-affected household. COVID household both are affected, but this Pearson chi-square test is not statistically significant, indicate that the COVID have same impact on the both affected and non-affected household. There are 70 affected household and rest 132 non-affected. The gap between the pre-COVID and post-COVID has been increased. That means both are affected, but the effect have the same. Again, dummy variable multiple regression model has been used in our study. The model is statistically significant. Nearly 57% variation in MPI is explained by 6 independent variables. And we found occupation of the household head, education of the head of household, and poverty status of the household exert significant influence on MPI. But a household with a business as main occupation is least vulnerable to multidimensional poor in comparison to other 3 occupations in pre-COVID period. But a household with service as main occupation is least vulnerable to multidimensional poor in comparison to the other 3 occupations in post-COVID period. These are major findings of the study. COVID-19 pandemic exerts negative impact on multidimensional poverty. Employment and school attendance along with social connectedness are the major victims of the COVID-19, and the impact of COVID-19 has been equally felt by both COVID-affected and non-affected households in the post-COVID period. In pre-COVID period, business are the main occupation were the least affected than other groups, but in post-COVID period, we have found that service as the main occupation are the least affected in comparison to other occupation group. So, based on the finding, these are the policy suggestions. Implementation of national pension scheme in its spirit in supplementing the household income during pandemic situation, while public awareness of the scheme, provision to get pension during the period of continuation of the scheme in the event of this type of unforeseen contingencies, then government may implement the schemes to provide a low-cost smartphone with internet facility to every household, those who are living in below poverty line, again to provide internet access to every village. These are our references. Thank you, ma'am. Namaste.
Thank you, Mr. Bishwal. I think Bishwal is presenting Sujanaran Bishwal.
Yes, ma'am.
Your topic is very good, relevant. My discussant will discuss about in detail about your paper. I have small query. The query is relating to your occupation. In your presentation, you have said that business people are least affected by that COVID-19, that multidimensional poverty effect. How you categorize this or quantify the occupations?
Occupation means I have taken service, farming, business, and
yeah, that you have taken, but you have put some number or something against that.
Yes, ma'am. There are 53 households. There are households are practicing business at their occupation.
Okay. For business people, how you have quantified that? That is my that you must have some coding for the occupation. No.
Yes, ma'am. If the household has some business person in their family, any
okay. Discussant will have the paper with him, and he will discuss in detail about that. Otherwise, paper is good, and I welcome my discussant to discuss on this paper. Please, Sitakanta Babu.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So, Surjat, it's a very well-written paper. I have only 3-4 suggestions to make. please be mindful of that. And these are not questions, only suggestions to improve your paper. Okay, so I went through your paper. What the first thing is, see what the paper has actually done begins in page number 7. So in these modern times, we actually do not have much time to go through a research paper to wait till that point to know what the paper has actually done. So you better you do one thing. You see, other stuff can lead up to that point, can be actually relegated to some subsection in the literature review, or you can put it in the appendix or some such stuff. And second thing is, you see, your literature review is very brief. Because most of the stuff forms part of your introduction section. So since COVID has a lot of literature already, so can you okay, so can you hear me? So
Yes, yes, sir.
yeah, literature review is very brief, as most of the stuff forms part of the introduction section. And you see, one thing that is missing in this paper is you need to actually differentiate from the existing literature, because it has used a primary survey. So and there are many studies that have already used primary surveys on poverty situation during the COVID pandemic. So you need to actually distinguish from the existing literature. And
Yes,
these
sir.
are some quality or style issues. And then my final thing is on your empirical side, since you are actually your outcome variable is multidimensional poverty. So using poverty status of the household as a regressor is empirically very problematic. So get into, I mean, you think of this carefully later on. Okay, so overall, it's a nice study. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I will recover will this next time in the future.
Thank you, Sitakanta Babu, for your enlightened comment. The paper's presenter and the paper writers will take care of it and improve their paper. So now I request Mr. Bishwal to unshare his video so that next presenter will come and share his video. Next presenter is Ms. Saida Banu and Vishnu Topo. I request the presenter to present and share his video. It is a topic on effects of COVID-19 lockdown on the livelihood and food security of people of Odisha, written by Saida Banu and Vishnu Topo. I request them to come, and Mr. Bishwal, please unshare your video.
Ma'am, I want.
No, it is coming still.
Okay, ma'am, I'm doing.
You stop share your
Morning, ma'am.
morning.
My PPT is visible.
No,
Is it visible now?
Yes, it's visible now. I mean,
Good morning, everyone. I'm Saida Banu, and I'm presenting on effects of COVID-19 lockdown on the livelihood and food security of people of Odisha. Our previous paper panelist has discussed the highly infectious nature of SARS-CoV virus and how it has imprisoned the world for 2 years. With this background, now I would like to start my presentation. We know that pandemic-driven lockdown has adversely affected millions of lives as the whole economy became paralyzed. This resulted in joblessness and income shock to people, especially workers working as casual labor and under informal sector got the hardest hit. Loss of income reduced their access to food. Further, restricted labor movement, shutdown of production units, reduced transportation due to lockdown, added with the fear of virus spread, lead to supply chain disruption. This supply chain disruption paired with reduced income posed a serious problem of food insecurity. Though government did try to help by distributing free ration under public distribution system, but it was not very fruitful. We have reviewed a number of literature. We have reviewed a number of literature which gave a wide perspective on the effects of lockdown. In Sukhmani et al., we learned that the local food system was adversely affected by the lockdown. In Mukherjee et al., they found reduced agricultural output on the one hand and low demand on the other hand resulted in food insecurity for poor, especially who work in the informal sector. Further, in the study of world food security, the committee used 6 dimensions of food security and nutrition, that is access, availability, stability, utilization, agency, and sustainability, and found all the dimensions were adversely affected by the pandemic-driven lockdown. Another study by Behra et al. Found that the standard of living of rural households was drastically declined due to lack of job opportunity and huge income loss. We have attempted, most of these studies have analyzed lockdown-led distress of people, but none of them have analyzed the impact considering the market access of the people. An overall study of Odisha considering the difference in the level of development is almost non-existent. That's why we have attempted to analyze the linkage of different degree of market penetration and effect of lockdown on the livelihood and food security of the people of Odisha. And that's why the main objective of our study is to examine the impact of COVID pandemic lockdown on the livelihood and food security of people, taking linkage of degree of market penetration and how the different degree of market penetration has affected the livelihood and food security of people of Odisha. Market penetration. Market penetration refers to the successful selling of a product or service in a specific market. We conceptualize degrees of market penetration affect our consumption basket, consumption and livelihood patterns. For example, in the urban areas where Zomato and Swiggy are available, people can think of taking ready-made food from different hotels at their doorstep. But in an interior village, people can't perceive ready-made food as a part of their consumption basket due to non-availability of Zomato and Swiggy facility, which can be considered as low degree of market penetration. Likewise, in the case of livelihood option, in the urban areas, people can even sell marigold and earn income, which is not an option for people in a subsistence economy. With this background, we have divided the market penetration into 4 categories. The extreme from as low, very low, low, moderate level of market penetration and high level of market penetration. The extreme categories are subsistence economy and market economy. As far as the data and methodology of this paper is concerned, this study is based on primary data. Mainly, we have used focus group discussion method to collect data, and we have used purposive sampling to choose sample village. As due to the lockdown, we can't. There is a restriction on movement, so that's why we have used purposive sampling. We have selected 4 villages from 4 districts. The districts are Ganjam, Nayagarh, Bargarh, Sundargarh. And the four villages are Kotibadi village from Ganjam, Champatipur village from Nayagarh, Ghanamal village from Bargarh, and Deobhal village from Sundargarh. We have used 4-point Likert scale to rank the degree of market penetration of the villages as very low, low, moderate, and high degree of market penetration in ascending order of 1 to 4. We have included market driven production of agricultural, horticultural, and dairy products and livelihood opportunities from the market economy. We have also considered the collection from common pool resources. To get an idea about the degree of market penetration of different villages, we have calculated and taken a proxy variable, that is market size for the goods produced locally. We have also taken the distance of nearby market where the products of sample villages are sold for this from these villages. We have divided findings into three parts. In the first part, we have tried to give a picture of development disparities in these 4 districts and villages. In the second part, we have analyzed the impact of lockdown on the households of our sample villages, which is presented in the form of case studies. And in the third part, we have attempted to examine the degree of market penetration with livelihood loss and food insecurity due to lockdown. So first, as the first part, the development disparity in Odisha, we have used gross district domestic product as a summary measure of market penetration and economic development. If we look into the GDP data, then the overall situation of Sundargarh is very good. The overall situation of Sundargarh is very good in terms of GDP data as well as in terms of infrastructure index. But the overall situation hides the reality of some pockets. So here we are bringing deprivation within the development. So we have also tried to analyze the intra-district disparity, and for the as the village level gross domestic product data is not available. So to proxy that, we have used the block level data of Ghadai committee report in the form of composite development index of blocks. And the Ghadai committee report data was of 1991, and this is the latest data. As far as the composite development index is, as you can see from the table, the CDI value of Sundargarh district and Bargarh district is remaining below 0.5, indicating that these districts are backward. Further, this Ghadai committee report is the data of Ghadai committee report is was of 1991. So to know about the present situation, we have analyzed the situation of villages, collecting the data in 2021, so that we can get the recent picture of this district. Further, which we will discuss in the later part. Further, as per to capture the food security, we have used poverty data and food intake data in terms of calories. of 68 round 2011-12 and SSO consumption expenditure 68 round 2011-12. Looking into the table, we can clearly see that as far as the calorie index of Sundargarh and Bargarh districts are concerned, it is very low. Moving into the next part, that how the lockdown has impacted household livelihood and consumption or food insecurity. We have analyzed 4 villages of these 4 districts. First village, that is Dhanmal or Bargarh district, we have analyzed and know that in the Dhanmal village, agriculture, cultivation was the main occupation of the people. Also, the landless and a small farmer used to work as labor in the agriculture and construction work. They produce rice, varieties of vegetables, and some fruits like watermelon and jackfruit. The people of this village suffered a lot due to lockdown. Agricultural activities were reduced in this period. During this lockdown period, in this village, farmers cultivate good amount of watermelon in their cropland as well as in the bank of river Ananga. Middlemen from towns came here and purchased this from the farmers. But this year, due to lockdown, very few such buyers came here. The farmer had to sell this at a very low price in the locality. Similarly, this year farmers could not sell much of the ripe jackfruit at a fair price and they suffered from income loss.
Saida, sorry for interrupting. Actually, I've been told by the hostess that you please, all the panelists, including me, we should put our camera on. So please put your camera on so that people can see you. And other panelists also, please put your camera on.
Okay. Give me 2 minutes. So the vegetable sellers, sorry, the people also could not able to sell much of the ripe jackfruit at a fair price and thus suffer from income loss. All types of construction activities were also stopped, making the wage earners making the wage income of the wage earner almost zero. The next village is our Kotiwadi village of Ganjam district. The main economic activities of people here are migration, cultivation, construction, and trade and commerce. Migration being an important source of migration being an important livelihood option of the people from this village, and migrants remittance constitute an important income source in this village. Due to lockdown, the remittances of these migrants become almost zero, and the migrant household suffered a loss as all the economic activities were paralyzed during lockdown. For the farmers, a good number of people also cultivate vegetables and fruits from this village. They, due to lockdown, they have huge income loss because of the disruption of supply chain. As they face difficulty of selling their product in the bigger market, and due as the vegetable, as we know that vegetables are perishable, the lack of proper storage facilities forced the people of this district to sell their product at a distressed price. They made distressed sale. The next village is our Champatipur village of Nayagarh district. The main occupation of the people here are cultivation and wage earning and animal husbandry. We know that the Nayagarh district is very famous for a dairy product named Chenapura. I would like to point out a mistake that we have made in the paper, and we genuinely apologize for it. The Chena Podo has been written as Chose Holdena Podo. It was a technical mistake. Our computer auto-corrected it, taking household and Chena together. Kindly forgive us for this. And please try to consider it as Chena Podo instead of Chose Holdena Podo. This area.
Saida, please be brief.
Yes, ma'am. This area is famous in the state for an important milk product, Chenaporo. Hence, a good number of people from our sample village also engaged in cattle rearing, milking, milk vending, and sweet making. And the worst form of shock is faced by these people who depend on the sale of milk and milk products. The closure of tea stalls, sweet stall, and suspension of passenger vehicles reduce the demand for milk. They sell their product, milk and milk based sweets at a very very low price, and sometimes they distribute milk freely in the neighborhood. Then in the last sample village, that is Devbahal of Sundargarh district. This village is a forest friends village, and mainly 60% of the households of the village are belonging to scheduled tribes. Cultivation and forest collection are the important livelihood opportunities in this village. The farmers are subsistence farmers who
Saida, please very.
yes, ma'am, who produce for their own consumption only. So as they operate in the subsistence economy, they did not they suffered very less from the pandemic driven lockdown. Due to time shortage, I am moving to the
Yes, you please
market,
move on.
which is our main point. For to examine the market access and market penetration, we have taken 7 nearby market of our sample villages where they can sold their product, where they sold their product, and we have categorized the nearby villages in the form of rank A, B, C, D, and E, depending on the size of the market. And we have assigned values 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 to them in the form of descending order. Finally, and we have summed the values assigned to the 7 urban areas market of each village and considered it as the proxy of market access of this market size of this villages. And we find that higher the market penetration, higher is the income loss of people, and vice versa. People of Nayagarh face food insecurity in vegetables and fruits which were not locally produced, but they didn't suffer food insecurity in milk and milk produce because that product plentifully available in their consumption basket. To conclude, it is evident that the people's dependence on market is a deciding factor for their livelihood as well as their food habits. Where the people are more dependent on the market, they suffer more from the problem of food insecurity of food not locally produced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Saida, I hope it is a very good paper. As I was disconnected for a good number of period of time, I asked my that is discussion to discuss on this paper. Sita,
Hello, can you hear me? Saida ma'am, hello.
Yes, sir.
Listen, it's a very well written paper.
Please.
It's actually
Saida, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
so it's a very well written paper. So I have a couple of
Hello?
suggestions.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. I think there is a technical issue from the side of ma'am. Hello?
Okay, so let's get around with this
Hello?
quickly. Yeah, I can hear you.
Please go ahead. Sitakanta Babu, please go ahead.
Thank you, thank you. So
Go
what I
ahead.
was telling you is, this is actually a very well written paper,
Thank you,
and since it
Discuss
has,
on this paper.
yes, yes. So it has used a case studies approach, but I have only a couple of suggestions to make to improve your study.
Yes,
You
sir.
see, this paper has a very unusually brief conclusion. So you extend the conclusion actually a little
Yes,
bit. That's a very that has some I mean that has something to do with the quality. Otherwise, you see how you have chosen all these blocks, I mean all these villages in these 4 districts. It is actually not clear. Although you have
I can highlight that right now. Due to shortage of time, I have not
no, it's okay. No, I have no. See, I have gone through your paper. So whatever I'm telling today, it's based on the papers that you have submitted, right? So you please make it clear in the paper as to how you have chosen all these blocks in the districts, and the third suggestion is, you see, based on the 2011-12 data on gross district domestic product, we cannot actually, we are very less likely to say whether a particular region is developed or not. You please make use of very recent data, and they are there in in the Orissa economic surveys of recent years. So you please make use of some recent data to substantiate your thesis. So so old data, it's like 11 years back, so many things have changed. You please make it more recent. With this, I think it's a overall it's a well written study.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sitakanta Babu. You have done a great job, because I was somehow disconnected. Connectivity problem was there. Thank you. And Saida and Vishnu will take care of your comments. Thank you. So, Saida, please stop share your screen. Now, the next presenter, Mr. Sampati Saha. Share your screen and present.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Ma'am, actually, this how do I do this screen share? I don't know. So if anybody can direct me, then I can follow that.
Actually,
there is a symbol, share screen, arrow
Green
mark,
color.
green color. You go there.
Share screen, green mark.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, one is recording in left side, and the green mark is there, but meeting.
No, niche. Down. Stop. Down. Near the chart.
Sir, chart, ma'am, one is chart, another one is lower hand, and another is Q&A.
Hello, Dr. Samapti Saha.
Yes, sir.
This is Dr. Pati from GM University.
Yes, sir. Please help me.
You have got one message. You have got one message from our side. You have to accept that message so that you'll be a part of the panel.
Okay. Yes, sir. No message till I received. So, sir, can you resend?
Already,
Sir, can you resend?
we have sent it twice. So check
Okay.
it.
Yes. I received. Yes.
Yes. Now accept. Okay. Now you are a part of the.
Yes,
Now you are a part of our panel.
screen share is there, sir.
Now. Now you can share your screen.
Which one is my screen? Okay, sir.
There is a green button.
Yes, sir.
You see the bottom of your screen. There are 6 entries. In the middle part, you will find share screen.
Sir, can you see this screen, my screen? Can you share?
No. You have not shared it yet.
Okay. So, enter screen, then click screen. Sir, in my desktop, that is open. My screen is open, means that one, what I want to present.
But you have to share it. You have to share it.
minimize Zoom meeting share screen
You minimize that. You minimize your PPT.
Okay, sir.
Then go to Zoom.
Go to Zoom.
Then share.
Go to Zoom. Sir, if it is taking time, so I don't want to waste your time. So another next participant can continue.
Yeah,
Sir.
minute,
Another
minute.
person, if anyone can help me, then I will do that on another side.
Please. 1 minute. I have to take the permission of the chairperson. Madam Das, you are muted. Please unmute, madam. Madam Das, please unmute.
So Abhilasha Tripathi and Sudhakar Patra, if you are ready, then we can go, and next Samapati will present. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I will try. If anyone is help me, I am not.
Dr. Shah, you send your PPT to my mail. My mail is, I have already shared the mail to the Economic Association mail ID.
Okay, sir.
So you just send your PPT to my site. We'll take care of that.
Okay.
It is umapati.eco@gmail.com.
Can I start?
In case of any difficulty,
Yeah, Abhilasha, please
call me.
start.
Good morning, one and all present here. Esteemed Chairperson, Professor Sanjukta Das, Discussant, Professor Sitakant Panda, and all the members of ORISSA Economic Association. I am Abhilasha Tripathi, pursuing post-graduation in Department of Economics of Barampur University. As we all know, coronavirus has posed an unpredictable challenge worldwide. The global pandemic has forever changed our experience, attitude, and behavior as a customer, employees, citizen, and humans. Now it has become a part of our life and we have to live with it. Today, I am going to present on health crisis in Indian economy due to COVID-19, which I have worked under the supervision of Professor Sudhakar Patra of Barampur University. The entire global economy is going through economical, psychological, and social behavioral changes after the first and foremost human tragedy ever recorded, affecting thousands of people all around the globe. India's current surge of COVID-19 pandemic has created physical as well as mental health crisis among the population of the country due to lockdown restrictions, overwhelming number of COVID cases, financial difficulties, and more. The existing health infrastructure in India is very inadequate for COVID patients, and this wave of coronavirus has made us feel the urgency of increasing beds in the hospital and appointment of doctors and paramedical staffs in order to control the forecasting situation. The novel coronavirus, also referred as COVID-19, initially detected in Wuhan region of China in December 2019. The virus, named as Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus 2 by the International Committee on Taxonomy of Viruses. It is defining the global health and economic crisis of the time the world has faced after many decades. Even since its appearance in December 2019, the virus has proliferated in every continent except Antarctica. Patients developing extreme form of this disease constitute approximately 15% of the cases. According to the World Health Organization report 2020, almost 30% of the nation had no preparedness response plan towards COVID-19 spread. Only a few countries have comprehensive infection prevention and control program along with water, sanitization, hygiene standard in healthcare facilities. My study seeks two objectives. First, to investigate if the paramedical staffs and health infrastructure have significant impact on the number of deaths. Second, to analyze the economic effect on COVID-19 pandemic on GDP. The methodology of the study is completely based on secondary data, and analysis is based on multivariate regression model, correlation matrix, graphs, and descriptive statistics. So coming to the analysis part of my presentation, as we all know, health infrastructure and health facility in the country plays a very vital role in reducing the death due to diseases. This hypothesis shows the impact on the availability of medical staffs and health infrastructure on the number of coronavirus deaths in India. The equation for the regression model for ith observation is which is equation 2 of my slide, and it is NDI is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 DPCI plus beta 2 PBI plus beta 3 PDI plus beta 4 PNI plus beta 5 PHI plus UI, where the total number of observation is 36. Number of death is NDI. Death to positive case ratio is DPCI. Positive case to bed ratio PBI. Positive case to doctor ratio PDI. Positive case to nurse ratio is PNI. Positive case to hospital ratio is PHI. Error term that embeds all the unobserved factor affecting the number of death is UI, and the slope coefficient is beta 0, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, beta 4, and beta 5 are the effect on the number of death of 1 unit increase in death to positive ratio, positive to bed ratio, positive to doctor ratio, positive to nurse ratio, positive to hospital ratio, respectively. After the regression, the estimated regression equation will be, which is equation 3 of my slide, is NDI is equal to minus of 3,573.46 plus 5,82,934.5 DPCI minus 674.89 PBI plus 97.36 PDI minus 621.95 PNI plus 4.47 PHI plus UI. In this model, the dependent variable is the number of death and the explanatory variable are 5, and they are death to positive ratio, positive to bed ratio, positive to doctor ratio, positive to nurse ratio, and positive to hospital ratio. The multivariate regression model is shown here. The table shows the regression model where the dependent variable depends on the independent variable considering the statistical significance. The independent variable, the death to positive corona cases ratio is not significant as the p-value is above 14%. Other independent variables are significant here because the p-value of the independent variable are less than 5%. Regarding the goodness of fit of this regression model, it is said that all the 5 independent variables cumulatively explain 65.03% of dependent variables. Both R-square and adjusted R-square is more than 50%. That signifies that the model is considered to be a good fit one. Regarding the probe of F statistic, which is significant and less than 5%, proving that the model is fit. The Darwin-Watson statistic is approximately 2, that is 1.992581. So there exists no correlation in this regression model. The effect of coronavirus status is different in different states and union territories in April 2021. Among all the states, Kerala has the highest number of nurses who are treating the positive cases. Puducherry, Chandigarh, and Andaman Nicobar Islands are in the following position. Lakshadweep, Goa, Delhi, Dadra Nagar Haveli, Punjab are having manageable level of percentage of nurses, but the lowest percentage of nurses are serving in Bihar, UP, and Tripura. My next slide represents the correlation among the variables. Here, the variable y, which is the number of death, and x1, that is the death to positive case, has the correlation of 0.23, which is a positive, but not so there doesn't exist any strong relationship between these two variables. Similarly, the variables y and x2 have the value of 0.07, which is also the same as the relationship of y and x1. In the case of y and x3, the coefficient is 0.63, showing a moderate positive relationship. It means if the number of death increases, the positive to doctor ratio also increases, and vice versa. For the variable y and x4, the value is closer to the -1, that is minus 0.07, which shows that there is an inverse relationship between these two. In case of y and x5, this is the value closer to 0, which means there is no strong relationship between these two variables. The figure represents the percentage of COVID case in states and union territories in India by April 2021. Regarding the percentage case-wise with population, it is visible that Chhattisgarh is having the highest number of percentage case, followed by Nagaland, Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, Dadra Nagar Haveli, and Jharkhand. Whereas in Ladakh, Puducherry, Maharashtra, and in Arunachal Pradesh, there are a moderate number of percentage cases, and the least number percentage of cases are in remaining states and union territories like Sikkim, Assam, Delhi, and in Kerala. Hence, it is depicted that Chhattisgarh is at the top position where the highest number of cases to the population is showing. Now, this figure represents recovered cases to corona cases, where almost all the states are having a good status regarding recovered cases, except Telangana, where the recovery rate is relatively less, followed by Assam and Bihar. The states and union territories like Delhi, Andhra Pradesh, and Manipur are having the highest recovery rate. Therefore, it is assumed that these states have better health infrastructure. The figure shown here represents the testing rate of all the states and union territories by April 2021. Here, the states which is in top is Chandigarh, where it shows that the rate of testing is highest among all the states and union territories, followed by Meghalaya and Jammu Kashmir. The state that are having moderate level of testing is Nagaland, Goa, Chhattisgarh, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, Orissa, and Andhra Pradesh. The least number of testing carried out by the state is Sikkim, Tripura, Kerala, Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, and Delhi. The sizable effect of COVID-19 pandemic is becoming apparent, and the assessment of impact on the economy has been operationally defined by the impact of GDP on India as a measure drawback. Impact on GDP in India was very concerning, as we were already going through a downward trajectory since the turn in financial year 2018-19. More specifically, on the quarterly basis, India's growth rate fell from around 8% in Q4 of financial year 2018 to new low of 4.5% in Q2 of 2020. In the Indian economy contracted by 7.3% in 2021 as the country battled the first wave of COVID-19. Overall hit to India's economy was softer than that during the first wave. RBI lowered its estimate for economic growth to 9.5% for 2021-2022 from earlier projection of 10.5% due to the impact on the second wave of COVID-19. The lockdown impacted the growth seems the most important and the fastest growing sector of Indian economy is service, which is more than 60% of the GDP. Agriculture, forestry, and fishing constitute of 12% of the output, but employs more than 50% of the labor force. Manufacturing accounts for 15% of GDP, construction for another 8%, and mining, quarrying, electricity, gas, and water supply for more remaining 5%. Just like any other country, India has struggled against the coronavirus pandemic. The situation in all the states is not uniform with regards to health infrastructure and coronavirus testing and positive cases. The highest number of cases is observed in Maharashtra, which is followed by are Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and Delhi. Whereas the least number of COVID cases are in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Dadra and Nagar Haveli. Various factors like financial inequalities, inadequate health care, and a huge population have made the matter even worse. Adequate health infrastructure is the necessity of the time, but in a vast country like India with 135 crores of population, it is not easy task to provide adequate public health infrastructure. Therefore, a blend of private and public health infrastructure is in the demand of the time. So this concludes the focus of my discussion today. I would like to highlight that the Indian economy is showing signs of recovery since the peak of the second wave in the first half of May 2021 on the back of targeted fiscal relief, strong push of capital expenditure. The waves of COVID-19 has brought the attention of the entire globe towards the improvement of health infrastructure and manpower, improvement in number of hospitals, appointment of more doctors, nurses, and paramedical staffs can protect people from the risk of coronavirus. The strict practice of COVID appropriate behavior is basic necessity of to control the spread of COVID of the pandemic. Clearly, the path of economic recovery and meaningful economic growth may be possible by 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhilasa. It is a very nice paper, and you have highlighted most of the health issues. Very pertinent points you have highlighted. Now, I request Sitakanta Babu to comment on this paper.
Actually, this paper is a very good effort. I have some, as usual, I have some suggestions to make. It's actually a very good effort.
Thank you, sir.
So you see, you need to actually drastically polish the abstract. It's very literary in nature. So not just abstract, the full paper has to be refurbished in terms of writing style. That said, you see, there are two different questions that you have studied. This is the impact of paramedics and health infrastructure on COVID deaths is one question, and the impact of COVID and GDP is another question. These are two disparate questions. So you better study these two different questions in two different papers. These two suggestions are related to style, and a couple of suggestions for your substance. You see, you have actually used OLS model. I mean, as a student, as a PG student, it's actually a very commendable effort, I must tell you. This is a really appreciable effort. You see, since you have used OLS, you have to explain how and why you think OLS is suitable in this case. What are the possible problems of estimation and how you have corrected it? Those things have to be there in this paper, right? So, and then you see, since you have actually used a regression model using different states, you need to actually control for state-specific characteristics, right? So there are different state-related factors which need to be actually controlled for, right? And then you see, when you are actually quoting COVID data, COVID ratios, different kinds of ratios, you put an exact date. It's not like April 2021, because during the pandemic, each date is important, right? The whole month. So you put an exact date. And the final thing is, you see, since it's a health outcomes paper, right? So you need to actually, mentioning the impact of monetary policy, RBI different monetary policies, and the GDP impact, etc. They seem rather unnecessary. So you better reduce this flop, right? So otherwise, it's a very nice effort. Hope you will improve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sitakanta Babu.
I'll try my best, sir.
Abhilasa will take care of it. Now, Somapati has shared her screen. So I request Somapati to present her paper, Impact of COVID-19 on Poverty and Child Nutrition in India. Somapati, please. Samapati, please unmute yourself. Samapati, unmute yourself.
Ma'am, I'm audible?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Okay, ma'am. I'm very sorry, ma'am. These are the, in fact, the due to the lack of proper knowledge of the shared screen at the time of Zoom. That's why I have taken that much of time. I'm sorry again to all of you. And at the same time, good afternoon to all of you, and especially Chairperson ma'am and sir, and the full OEA organizer committee. My paper is the impact of COVID-19 on poverty and child nutrition. I will not go details of this, all the PPT, all the slides. So due to the time constraint, there is a lots of poverty definitions are there. We are all in this subject of economics, so we know that. I only mention here the Nobel laureate economist Amartya Sen. In his book Poverty and Famines 1980, he said that it is natural to view poverty as failure to meet the basic requirements of decent life. The concept of decent life does, of course, vary from society to society. In fact, this concept comes from the Adam Smith 1776. Had noted, he noted there also and mentioned the Adam Smith name. In fact, in this during this pandemic, the report of in fact World Inequality Report 2022 highlights that the top 20% and top 1% in India holds 57% and 22% of the total national income respectively, while the bottom 50% share has gone down 13%. So these are the things happening in India. In fact, worldwide, this inequality, economic inequalities are there. India is in the top situation. In fact, more than 700 million people still live in extreme poverty due to pandemic, and due to the frequent lockdowns for breaking down the chain of COVID-19 pandemic creates unemployment, especially in informal sectors. Because of lockdown and notice lockdown, the people comes from their working place in for informal sector, migrated labor especially. They comes to the rural area and they have no income. So unemployment rate is drastically, in fact, increased. This unemployment leads to creates poverty. In fact, from one World Bank blog, I have seen that from this blog, some points I mentioned here. The impact of COVID-19 pandemic was largest for world poorest. About 97 million more people are living on less than $1.90 a day because of the pandemic, increasing the global poverty rate from 7.8 to 9.1%. In 2021, the average incomes of people in the bottom 40% of the global income distribution are 6.7% lower than pre-pandemic projections. The decline in income has translated into a sharp increase in global poverty, increased inequality. The global income inequality has increased between the countries and within the country due to the pandemic. So this inequality already I have mentioned in India also. Poverty, in fact, this poverty also affects the children health. In fact, mentally, physically also. Poverty denies children their fundamental rights to nutrition, health, water, education, protection, shelter, and more. At least 1 of 3 children under the age of 5 is affected by malnutrition in its most visible forms, stunning, wasting, and overweight. In recent years, globally, an estimated 356 million children live in extreme poverty. Nearly 144 million of children under the age of 5 are affected by stunning. 47 million children are affected by wasting, and the 38 million children under the age of 5 are affected by overweight worldwide. The SDGs cannot be achieved without the realization of the child right. In fact, SDGs 2 was the target was that in 2030 the target was that the hunger-free and poverty-free world. So that is cannot be, I think, achieved, and SDG also that statement also comes. Objective and the methodology of my paper. The main objective of my paper is to analyze how the COVID-19 increased poverty in India. I already mentioned this part. Because of lockdown, because of the migrated labor, jobless, and the rural area. In the rural area, already the discussed unemployment pressure is already there. Then again, it increased. Women are jobless also, especially in the informal sectors, and the poverty due to the unemployment, poverty increased. I already mentioned some points. This COVID-19 affects the schemes of ICDS and the midday meal, that is health of children. With the analysis of global hunger index, this paper will describe the situation of Indian children in comparison to her neighbor countries. It is also the part of study that why transition is required from the idea of the food security to the idea of the achieving nutrition security. The study is analytical in nature, methodology. This paper has been made on basically the secondary data, government reports, and the literature available in the internet sources and the rapid appraisal. Due to this pandemic situation, during this pandemic situation, the poverty increase, unemployment increase. So the people, poor people, they don't have that much of money. So government has taken some initiatives to.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes,
I'm requesting all paper presenters to put their camera on while presenting. Yes. Thank you so much. Samapti, could you please put your camera on?
Sir, I actually very much, I don't know where.
Okay. Amarendra Babu will allow her because she's not that efficient in using that way. So we can allow her.
I'm saying this.
Sir, I know, but I don't know today what is happening with me. मुझे लग रहा है कि मैं कुछ भी नहीं किया जिंदगी में, ऐसे लग रहा है आज.
नहीं, तुम किया, don't worry.
Okay, so sorry, sir. I can switch on.
No. You proceed your presentation. The public distribution system is a step towards ensuring the requirement of the food for subsidized prices. In 10 September, we know already that 2013, there is a National Food Security Act. So in this during the COVID, what the government has done, the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan scheme covered 80 crore poor people, including cash transfer and the food security. Under the scheme, each one got free 5 kilogram rice or wheat every month for next 3 months. Additional 1 kilogram pulse had given per household every month to these families for the next 3 months. The scheme covered farmers, workers under MGNREGS, widow pensioners, disabled women with Jan Dhan account, women running self-help groups, construction workers, beneficiaries of the employees, provident fund organizations. During the coronavirus crisis and the immediate lockdown situation, the government of India took immediate action by announcing several social protection schemes for different sections of the society, including direct benefit transfer for certain section of the population. So these are the things, and the Atmanirbhar Bharat package of the government of India is for the persons who is not covered either under NFSA or any state schemes PDS cards. Hence, the disabled persons without ration cards are also eligible for getting benefits under Atmanirbhar Bharat package. The Department of Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution requested to all states and UTs that they identify such disabled persons who do not have ration cards and provide them benefits under Atmanirbhar Bharat package. Central government has taken the One Nation, One Ration Card scheme during the ongoing situation to enable economically weaker sections and migrant workers stranded in different places to access the food from any fair price shops of their choices across the country. The scheme will help people, especially migrant workers. The objective of the plan is to empower the NFSA beneficiaries, particularly migrant beneficiaries, to be self-reliant for their ensure food security anywhere in the country. And there will be the possibility to check or stop the leakages or corruption in the various stages of FCS go downs to APS, fair price shops, in public distribution system. Situation of child health in India. अब ये तो मतलब poverty के ऊपर मैंने बोला. अभी child health India under the National Food Security Act 2013, special provisions were like pregnant women and the lactating mothers and the children in the age group of 6 months to 14 years to provide nutritious meal free of cost
free of cost through ICDS, Integrated Child Development Services Centers called Anganwadi Centers, and the midday meal also falls within this act. Higher nutrition norms have been prescribed for malnourished children up to 6 years of age. Integrated Child Development Services is centrally sponsored schemes run by the state government through Anganwadi centers. The main objectives of the scheme is to improve the nutritional and health status of child in the age group of 0 to 5 years, to lay foundation of proper psychological, physical, and social development of child, to reduce the incidence of mortality, morbidity, malnutrition, and school dropout, to enhance the capability of the mother to look after the normal health and nutritional need of the child through proper nutrition and health education. But due to the COVID-19, jobless parents and other members of the family are also took part of the food provided by AWC for children. The result is that children could not have proper nutrition food due to COVID-19. Same thing was happening for midday meal. Due to pandemic, dry ration was provided to home, and family members are also taking part of it due to no income and to survive all. So the school going children, they also deprived from the proper nutritional food. From yesterday lecture of the Professor Suresh Babu, it came out that before the pandemic, some 100 million children received daily cooked meals under the program. But now they are not getting the cooked meal because of the closed of the schools and the Anganwadi centers. In the year 2020, about 17.3% of the children under the age of 5 years suffered a wasted growth with low weight for height and height among countries. About 31% of the children have low height for age, which is an improvement of the 41.7% in 2012, but it is still higher than many other countries in the world. India's performance are continuously poor in addressing malnutrition and undernourishment and increasing obesity. Currently, 1 of the 3 Indian children is stunted, representing 1/3 of the world's stunted population, and 1 is 5 is wasted. So it is a very poor scenario in the context of child nutrition and the child health in India worldwide. India is some of the world's highest number of the undernourished children, and mental health challenges have likely doubled because of the pandemic. That thing also mentioned in the yesterday lecture, Professor S. Babu. India's performance are continuously poor in addressing malnutrition and undernourishment and increasing obesity. Currently, 1 in 3, I already discussed. The economic crisis generated by COVID-19 threatens to hit children and families the hardest. The number of children living in multi-dimensional poverty without access to education, health, housing, nutrition, sanitation, or water, and an additional 142 million children are expected to fall into monetary poverty in 2020 alone. This is the UNICEF report. Situation of children in India at global level. According to the Nobel Prize laureate.
To be brief, Samapati.
Okay. Ma'am, I am going to this one, the rank of GHI in India and the other neighbor countries. Okay. So only the one sentence I want to mention here, the Abhijit, the Nobel laureate economist Abhijit Banerjee and the Esther Duflo said in their book that for many of us, the waste poverty is almost the synonymous with the hunger. Now I will go this one. That is the neighbor country. You can say the SAARC country. This is Sri Lanka's 2002. In fact, 2020. There is a trend of this GHI and Global Hunger Index. And the India situation is 27 2002. It is a good. It is a continuously performing good, but all the comparison to other countries, this rank is 94. That is a very bad situation. In fact, I want to discuss here what is the Global Hunger Index. Is a tool of comprehensively measuring and tracking the hunger at global, regional, national level. Its scores are based on the values of 4 components, that is undernourishment, this child wasting, child stunting, child mortality. The indicators included in the GH formula reflecting caloric deficiencies as well as the poor nutrition. Based on the values of the 4 indicators, the GHI determines hunger on a 100-point scale, where 0 is the best possible score and 100 is the worst. GHI score is classified into the 5 categories: low, moderate, serious, alarming, and extremely alarming. Findings क्या है? According to the SOFI report, 14% of India's population is undernourished. It also shows that the country recorded a 37.4% stunning rate among children under 5 and wasting rate is 17.3%. The under 5 mortality rate stood at 3.7%. Considering nutrition of under 5 children, India is an alarming situation. Since 2000, India has made substantially progress, but there are still areas of concern, particularly regarding child nutrition. According to the latest data, India has the highest child wasting rate, share of children under the age 5 who have low weight for their height, reflecting acute undernutrition of all countries covered in the GHI. One of the main reasons behind hunger and food insecurity in India is migration from rural to urban areas. The COVID-19 pandemic pushed an additional 90 to 115 million people into extreme poverty this year. In India, around 44% of the children are underweight and the majority of the population lives in abject poverty. This is said by the Professor Samatha, that is 29th October 2021 in this national webinar organized by the Andhra University. The World Health Organization and the World Bank revealed that already before the pandemic, more than 500 million people were pushed or further pushed into extreme poverty because they have to pay for health services out of their own pockets, and the pandemic is likely to make the situation worse. Globally, the world is not on track to achieve sustainable development goals and hunger targets for any of the nutrition indicators of 2030.
Thank you, Samapati.
So, ma'am, only the conclusion and suggestion. This is the last slide. It is required to proper implementation of NFSA 2013 and transparency and supervision of the distribution system of food grains and nutritional food. To produce bajra, it is very cost benefit compared to wheat. It is required to less labor, half of wheat, less water, 1/3 of the wheat, whereas problem of ground level water is there in India. No pesticides, no fertilizer is required in this produced to bajra. It is eco-friendly production. To produce it, farmers will be benefited, and at the same time, by inclusion of the PDS, beneficiaries will get nutrition food. The report of the state of food security and nutrition in the world 2020 says that a key reason of hunger is that millions of people are unable to bear the cost of healthy diets. The report also mentioned that costly and unaffordable healthy diets are associated with the increasing food insecurity in all forms of malnutrition, including stunning, wasting, and overweight and obesity. My suggestion is that the bajra and the nutrition food should be provided in the PDS system. It is required to give more emphasis on primary sector, whereas more than 50% people involved in involved in this agriculture sector, primary sector. So it should be emphasized in the food processing, where the food production of food is wastage there, and farmers are getting very less amount of money. So it should be concentrated in also the food processing and industries and the MSME. It is required to more encouragement to purchase the nutrition food. Economic inequality will reduce only by creating more opportunity of employment. There is a inequality, economic inequality in our country. In fact, not only
shortage of time, Samapati, please.
Okay. Last line, that is the Swami Vivekananda say, in human society, too much wealth or too much poverty is a great impediment to the higher development of the soul. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Samapati. Yeah, it is a nice paper, but there are some comments from my side. Then I will request Shritakanta Babu to comment on your paper. My comments are basically your conclusion and suggestions are not coming from your paper. This is one. Second, your study is emphasizing on overweight in the beginning, which I see in your slide. While we are talking of the child that is undernutrition or child malnutrition problem, we don't emphasize much on overweight, we emphasize on underweight. And in your paper, you have emphasized on stunting, wasting, all these. But stunting and wasting, these problems are basically long-run problems. Underweight is a problem of the short term. When we are talking of that COVID-19 effect on the child nutrition, we should emphasize on underweight problem of the children. So if we do more work on the underweight, then we can measure the impact of COVID-19 on child nutrition. it will be very much specific. Okay, now Sitakanta Babu, please comment on the paper.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, it's a descriptive paper. I do not have any comments to make. But actually, what one thing I have noticed till now is probably is either you or me who is speaking. Can we, make the floor open to others for asking questions or anything?
That can be done, but I think that if it will be all papers are presented, then we can open for discussion.
Fine,
That
fine,
will be
fine.
best way so that we can manage the time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Because sometimes we are running short of time, so better we complete, then we'll allow the paper others to discuss.
Right.
So we'll allow now request next paper presenter, Dr. Kavita Kumari Sahu and her co-author.
Yes, ma'am. Ashutosh Chotray.
Ashutosh Chotray. Please.
Esteemed chairperson, respected discordant, respected all the members. A very good morning to all. I am Ashutosh Chotray. It is a joint paper presentation by me and my supervisor, Associate Professor Dr. Kavita Kumari Sahu. I'm going to present my paper titled COVID-19 and Healthcare Expenditure in India. Let me share my screen. This is the topic COVID-19 and healthcare expenditure. Introduction. This is the introduction part. Government to provide aim of the paper is to government to provide affordable, equitable, accessible, quality healthcare, and the process towards healthier nutrition, close correlation of health sector with economy. The objective of my paper to highlight the healthcare infrastructure and expenditure in India. It also analyze the status of COVID scenario in India. This is the literature review. I have collected some information regarding my topic, and there are basically two objectives of my paper: to highlight the COVID-19 scenario and healthcare infrastructure in India, and another one is to analyze the healthcare expenditure in India. Research methodology is data collection. I have used in this paper the secondary data collected from various databases like health statistics, NFS, and COVID-19 state dashboard. And the software I have used MS Excel to analyze the table and the graph. This slide shows the top countries COVID-19 cases. If we analyze the graph, we can find according to the Ministry and Family Welfare Government of India, the total cases of COVID-19 nearly 34 crore 82 lakhs has been witnessed in United States as on 30 December 2021. The highest number of possible cases of COVID-19 has been witnessed in US, followed by India. The positive cases in United Kingdom are nearly 1 crore 25 lakh. The percentage of COVID-19 death through total positive cases is highest in Russia, followed by Brazil. This slide shows the state-wise healthcare infrastructure of a doctor and specialist. According to the table, according to the report Health and Family Welfare Statistics, Government of India and Niti Aayog, the total sanctioned number of doctors in India, primary healthcare is 3,500,890, which is there are number of doctors in position. In Orissa, there are 1,288 sanctioned posts for the doctor. primary healthcare center, whereas 827 doctors in position. There are 461 vacancies in doctor and primary health center in Odisha in 2000. In Bihar, there are the highest number of doctor vacancy position, which affect our healthcare facilities. In next slide, trends in social service expenditure by Government of India, combined center and state. If we analyze this table, the government's spending on social service increased significantly during the pandemic. In 21-22 budget estimation, center and state governments an aggregate of 71.61 lakh crore for spending on social service sector, an increase of 9.8% over 2021. Last year's 2020-21 revised expenditure had also gone up by 54,000 crore for the budgeted amount. During the last 5 years, social service amount for about 25% of the total government expenditure, so both center and state taken together. In 21-22 budget estimate, it was 26.6%. In addition to the National Health Mission budget estimation 2021 announced Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission, a newly centralized sponsored scheme with an outlay of about 64,180 crore in next 5 years to develop the capacity of primary, secondary, and tertiary health systems. In National Health Policy 2017, government's health expenditure target to increase health expenditure to 2.5% of GDP by 2025. Some incentives taken to fight against COVID-19. These are the laboratory network. Government has increases the laboratory network as on 24th November 2021. A total number of 1,346 government laboratories and 1,700 private laboratories are conducting COVID-19 tests. So far, as on 20 January 22, the India conducted 70.93 crore of total COVID tests. Likewise, medical oxygen plants, Defense Research Development Organization installing more oxygen plants to which will help, funded by PM Care Fund, which will help to improve better healthcare facility. Likewise, OxyCare system, DRDO developed SpO2 based oxygen cylinder controller based on medical oxygen cylinder to optimally use the available medical oxygen for COVID-19 patient. State-wise healthcare expenditure, in fact, state-wise, if I analyze the, it is the state-wise healthcare infrastructure. Expenditure on GDP and per capita health expenditure. Highlighted the per capita gross, also highlighted the per capita gross domestic product of different states. Among the state of Delhi, state has 3,94,216 rupees of GSDP, which is highest, whereas Bihar has the lowest level of per capita. If we so this table shows the Delhi has also the highest percentage of revenue expenditure. Then we come to the next slide, financial allocation of expenditure on health sector. If we analyze the financial allocation for the health sector, we can find in 2015-16 to 19-20, the 14th Finance Commission period for 1920 to 21, according to the report of 14th Finance Commission, total annual growth rate has increased the 2016 to 17 33% 0.32%. Finally, total 14th Finance Commission period 298.65% annual growth rate of actual expenditure. Second table shows the establishment of research laboratory for managing epidemics and natural calamities. This has government total expenditure for control of epidemics and natural calamities shows the budgetary allocation implementation of health technology assessments. Total expenditure 2013-14, if we analyze budget estimation was 45 annual growth rate, actual expenditure was -11.76%, whereas it is increased 2019-20 33.05%. Then we go to the findings. In current financial year 2021, there is a major shortfall of revenue for all sources. Out-pocket expenditure of households in India are way too high. More IT-enabled service emerged in annual budget of Odisha 2021. The Health and Family Welfare Department was originally enhanced from actual expenditure 6,155 crore in 1922, 7,300 crore in annual budget 2021. That is 19% increase in the 19% increase. Besides providing another 1,769 crore in supplementary budget, which was very high. Conclusion: COVID-19 has caused massive damage to the economy. This study has examined the way of trend through which the healthcare expenditure is being occurred in India and what is the pattern of the healthcare expenditure. Third is the health and economic crisis of COVID-19 reveals possibilities for long-run supply, repair and other opportunities. For focus is required to expanding public health care in the economy. Survey 1920 reports that around 74% of outpatient care and 65% of hospitalization care is provided through private and private sector in urban India. Thank you. Ma'am, please unmute, ma'am.
এই সংযুক্তা অনমিউট করা। হ্যাঁ, very good, very good.
Thank you, sir, for it is a nice paper, and we know that since before independence, Bhore committee have reported that we should spend more on healthcare. At least 4% of our GDP should be spent on healthcare, but till now we have not done that, and because of that our health care system was not ready to bear that shock, and we have severely affected by that. And this paper have nicely presented the healthcare expenditure which has increased because of the COVID-19 shock. But other that non-COVID patients suffered during that COVID impact period. So we need to spend more. Now I request Sitakanto Babu to comment on this paper.
Again, it's a descriptive paper actually. So Asutosh, as ma'am said, you please improve the paper accordingly.
Sure, sir.
But make sure that you see you have to substantially overhaul the writing. writing of this particular paper, literature review has to be overhauled, the text, the referencing style, almost everything has to be actually revamped. And merely documenting facts in tabular form, it doesn't make the paper empirically meaningful. So you please try to make it a little more empirical in nature. Otherwise, you understand what I want to say. It's a good effort, actually. Okay.
So now we'll request next paper presenter, Tanushree Das, to come and present our paper by sharing her screen. Tanushree, please start.
Yes, ma'am. Very good afternoon to the chair and the discussant of the session, all the esteemed participants and my fellow presenters. First of all, I would like to thank ORISSA Economic Association for giving me an opportunity to present my work on this prestigious platform. Now, with your permission, ma'am and sir, I would like to share my PPT.
Yeah, share, please.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible, ma'am?
Yeah, visible.
Okay. So I'm Tanushree Das. I'm a PhD scholar in Department of Finance and Business Economics, University of Delhi. And my topic of presentation is an assessment of the status of gender inequality in education with reference to the current pandemic situation. Now, according to the recent Global Gender Gap report, rank of India is 140 out of 156 countries. Despite rapid economic growth in the last 2 decades, India continues to fare miserably in GDP rankings, and this needs serious attention. And despite all the efforts of the government, we still have gender inequalities in the field of education. Now, regarding social benefits from investing in female education are much more than those from male education, as female education has a strong positive effect on reducing
I just intervene. Asutosh, okay. Please go on.
Yes, ma'am. Reducing the total fertility rate, the infant mortality rate, along with improving child health and nutrition. So if educating a girl increases productivity and growth as that of a boy, then gender inequality in education is highly uncalled for. Now, these are my objectives: to examine the literacy inequality among different genders at national level, to investigate the gender gap in literacy rate in various states and UTs, to examine gender disparity in enrollment at different levels of schooling in various states and UTs, and last one is to analyze impact of COVID-19 on gender inequality in education. Regarding the data and methodology, in my study, I have used all the secondary data like census, UDI's, NFHS 5, Center for Budget and Policy Studies, report 2020. Simple statistical methods are used to calculate the gender gap among different castes, religions, and place of residence. And to calculate gender disparity in enrollment, Kundu and Rao's modified Sophos disparity index is used, which is a technique useful in measuring relative disparity between two groups. Now let me show the primary findings of my study. So you can see the literacy rate. The literacy rate for both males and females has been increasing continuously, and after 1981, there is a continuous fall in the gender gap in literacy rate, but it's still around 16.3% according to the 2011 census. Now, literacy rate by gender for rural and urban areas from 1971, a rural-urban gap in literacy rate among female is above that of male. And among male, it is 11%, and among female, it is 21%. Next one is literacy by gender for different religions. Literacy rate of Muslims is lower than other religions. This is true for both the genders. The gender gap is highest among Hindus at 23% and lowest among Jains at 6.8%. Now, next one is comparison of literacy rates of general and SC category. Till 1981, if you look at the graph carefully, then the literacy rate of females of general category is same as that of males of SC category. But after that, it has stayed above that of females of general category. But for both the categories, female literacy rate is below than their male counterparts, and same is the case with ST category as well. Now, this is the state-wise analysis. State-wise analysis, this is analysis of literacy rates. The graph clearly indicates the literacy rate of all the states have increased in these 3 decades, but it shows visible interstate variation in the literacy rate. In 2011, Kerala and Mizoram have literacy that is above 90%, but for states like Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Rajasthan, it is hovering around 60 to 70%. Now, gender gap in literacy among states and UTs, the graph shows that male literacy is above female literacy in all the states and UTs, and it is highest in Rajasthan at 27% and lowest in Meghalaya at 3%. So these census reports have clearly indicated the existence of literacy inequality among males and females in India. Now, there are different indicators to measure various aspects of education. In this paper, I have used enrollment to measure gender disparity among states and UTs. And for calculating disparity in enrollment, calculating a disparity in enrollment, I have used Kundu and Rao's modified Sophus index. Why? Because Sophus index cannot be calculated if the gross enrollment ratio is more than 100. Now, since the male literacy is usually more than female literacy, male literacy is taken as X2 here in the formula, and the value varies between 0 and 1, and positive sign of the index indicates that disparity against girls in enrollment. So the graph shows Sophus index for gender disparity in enrollment at elementary level. At the elementary level, if you look at the graph carefully, there is no disparity against girls except in Lakshadweep, where it is around 0.1. Now, at secondary level, it is highest in Gujarat, followed by Rajasthan, and at senior secondary level, in Rajasthan, it is around 0.15. So as you go to the higher levels of education, the magnitude of disparity index increases, though it's not very high. A lot of variation in the disparity index can be seen among states and UTs. Now, impact of COVID on education inequality. Current pandemic has substantial impact on gender inequality, not only during the downturn, but also in the recovery phase. During the regular recession, employment of men actually falls more than female. But now, due to this social distancing norm, the COVID pandemic has negatively impacted the sectors which have high female employment, like tourism, aviation sector, etc. Now, as a result, more women have lost their jobs due to the impact of pandemic than men, and women and girls' unpaid work has also increased immensely due to work from home orders, closure of schools and daycare facilities, increased need of healthcare during the pandemic. Actually, the alarming speed of virus caused major challenges in the educational system, forcing educational institutions to shut down, and teaching shifted to online mode. There has been a digital divide in India that has been there for the past decade, but almost everything was smoothly being done offline. But the pandemic has amplified the existing problems to a very large scale. The online teaching made the digital divide among the genders, this will have a serious impact on the pre-existing gender inequality in education. Now, the data on percent of women ever used internet shows that only 42.6% women ever used internet in rural areas, and it's 33.9%. I mean, in rural areas, actually, in rural areas, it's 33.94%. And the table here shows that in rural areas of West Bengal, it's just 14%. So you can understand the repercussion of this on online education. So according to the study conducted by CBPS, even when a family has a mobile phone, only 26% of girls, they have access to it anytime they want to, whereas for boys, it's 37%. So the increased burden of domestic chores and this digital divide in the internet usage will only amplify the pre-existing gender inequality in education. Now, these are few recommendations to reduce gender inequality in education. Yeah, so these are my recommendations. So we need to focus on children belonging to transition grades, especially primary to secondary, because here the dropout rates of girls are very high. And we need to identify girls who are permanently at risk of not returning to school. These would be older girls who may now, they may not be eligible for mainstreaming. Older girls means I mean that they're above 14 and they do not come under the ambit of RTI. More importantly, policymakers must look to create a set of incentives and support programs that shift the focus back on education for girls. Like the government can consider providing free education to girls up to graduation. More seats can be added in government funded residential hostels such as Kasturba Gandhi Balika Vidyalayas. And I would like to conclude by saying that gender balance would not only benefit women, but the economy at large. Now I welcome your suggestions and queries, which I can incorporate to improve my paper in future. Thank you.
Thank you. It is a nice attempt. And actually the gender gap in education, that result or what is the situation will be known only after few months when schools will open. And when we will be finding the that situation of the boys and the girls in a comparative way. But it is a nice attempt. Now I request Sitakanta Babu to comment on this paper.
Yes, it's actually a very good effort. This is how actually descriptive studies are done. Okay, so there are only two minor comments to make. See, in the paper, I think it's a revised version that you presented here. Yes, because sir. In the paper there is no mention of any internet usage or any such thing. Yes, sir. Okay, so that said, you see, you have to actually clearly identify how you are distinct or different from the existing literature. You have merely reported so and so people have done so and so work, and so they have found certain things. You have to differentiate your work from the existing literature, because on this particular topic, I think there are hundreds of papers already available on the net. So the distinction has to be made clear. And the second thing, naturally, anybody can ask, okay, so you are making use of the 2011 census data. So, and today this is 2022. So 11 years or 10 years have passed by. So how is your data set being very relevant for any kind of derivation of policy implications? So you please try to make some recent data sets like PLFS data sets or some prior, I mean, some other more recent ISDS data sets or some recent data sets to actually make it more relevant. Census data is it's almost obsolete. Of course, they are highly useful, but to derive any policy implications, you need to make use of some recent data sets.
Sure, sir. I will.
And they are easily available. You can easily do it.
Thank you, Sitakanta Babu. Next, we have similar paper by Shweta Padma Nayak and Dr. Lipi Sri Das, again on the education, that is effect of COVID-19 on elementary education in Orissa and government policy response. I request them to present their paper by sharing their screen.
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, visible.
Thank you, madam. Ma'am, is my PPT visible?
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am, and all of you. Welcome to Odisha Economic Association. This is Satyapad Manaik, PhD scholar, Ravenshaw University. Let me present my topic, effect of COVID-19 on elementary education in Odisha and government policy response. This is the outline of my study, which includes introduction, review of literature, objectives of the study, methodology, analysis and findings. So to introduce the study, as we know that the whole educational system from elementary to higher level has been collapsed due to COVID-19 lockdown, not only in India, but across the globe. COVID-19 is referred as a pandemic due to its severity and fierceness, also as the greatest global health crisis since centuries in human civilization. It has affected a large number of children across state, class, caste, gender, and region. The shutting down of schools and decision of shifting traditional classrooms to digital platforms is not only increasing learning inequality among children, but also pushing a large number of children out of school due to the digital divide. And it has caused collapse of the whole educational system from elementary to higher level. In India, about 32 crore learners stopped to move schools, colleges, and all educational activities came to an end. On March 11, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. The outbreak of COVID-19 has impacted about 1.2 billion students and youths across the globe by school and university closures. So according to the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, over 800 million learners from around the world have been affected. 1 in 5 learners cannot attend school, and over 102 countries have ordered nationwide school closures, while 11 have implemented localized school closure. In India, the first affected case of COVID-19 was detected on 30 January 2020. So in India, school closures have affected 320 million students. Only 37.6 million children across 16 states are continuing education through various education initiatives such as online classrooms. 67% in rural and 55% in urban areas or urban children have discontinued education. So due to unemployment and income loss, children has dropped out of schools and pulled into economic activities to support their parents in earning. The major
just one intervention, Shweta, your screen is not moving probably. Is it moving?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you move, just you are showing introduction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Due to the major reasons for being out of school are engagement in economic activities and participation in household chores. This is my review of literature parts, where Misra in his study seeks to address the necessity of online teaching, learning, and education in the COVID-19 pandemic, and how can existing resources of educational institutions effectively transform formal education into online education with the help of virtual classes and online tools. So it is found that most of the teachers were trained by institutions to gain hands-on experience, and there is a difference between online and face-to-face mode of teaching. It was an arduous task for them to use new teaching approach. So another third, it is also observed that the outbreak of COVID-19 has multiplied the flight of learners in countries affected. Another author in his article has studied the impact of COVID-19 on higher education in India, which highlights on major impacts of COVID-19. And the study found that the virtual education is the most preferred mode of education at this time of crisis due to the outbreak of COVID-19. As there is no certainty with regard to how long the pandemic situation will continue, a gradual move towards the online virtual education is a requirement of the current crisis. And the main objectives of my study is to find out the impact of COVID-19 on the elementary education in Odisha. Next, advantages, disadvantages related to online learning in elementary education, and to study the change of trend of enrollment and dropout in elementary education. Next, to examine the steps taken by the government to combat the negative impact of pandemic on the students for continuity of education. My study is mostly based on secondary data collected from various sources like Minister of Human Resource Development, Economic Survey of Government of Odisha, UNICEF, various papers, newspapers, and journals. So in few cases, certain observations are made by inquiring school teachers and parents of the students. My major findings related to the effect of COVID-19 on the elementary education system in Odisha. It is observed that with poor mobile connectivity in some parts of Odisha, online classes failed to reach many students of the state. Of the 60 lakh students, the department could hardly reach 22 lakh students during lockdown. The situation worsened further when the lockdown was lifted. Many parents returning to their workplaces took the only smartphone in the family with them. As per the department's assessment, the number of students taking online classes dropped to 6 to 7 lakh after the lockdown measures were erased. And as per the report 2017 to 18 NSSO, fewer than 15% of rural Indian households have internet access as opposed to 42% urban Indian households. And in Odisha, 31.2% in urban area and 5.8% in rural Odisha are having access to internet. So non-availability of technical infrastructure and irregular interrupted internet connectivity all across India is the biggest challenge in front of the students and teachers. So this table is showing the percentage of elementary school students having access to online learning through smartphones in Odisha. It can be observed from this table that out of 67 lakh 128 number of government elementary schools in the state, only 27.68% schools have access to online education, and only 31.95% of students attend online classes through smartphone, and 68% of students are deprived of online class due to lack of smartphone. The study also focused on some advantages and disadvantages related to online learning in elementary education in Odisha. Online learning encourages more productive use of time. It is cost-effective technologies are quite affordable. Class notes can be saved and distributed to network for references by students. The digital recordings of the classes, meetings can be uploaded in website to access later. It is useful for girl child and physically handicapped learners who can learn at home. This table is showing the student attendance in different modes of online education. We can observe that of the 43.72 lakh students, the Radio Pathshala is attended by 9% students, and 29% students have access to smartphones. 36.42% students watched live YouTube, and 20.10% students watched Doordarshan. Online teaching has also its disadvantages. The first difficulties is related to the infrastructure and connectivity issues in rural parts of the state. And in the Odisha Shiksha Sanjog program that aimed at e-learning during the pandemic has not been able to cover even 50% of the school, except in Khurda district. Sometimes teachers were not habituated to e-learning and often found it difficult to communicate with students. Online learning process has remained one-sided with no scope for interactions between student and teachers. Then my next objective shows the trend of enrollment and dropout rate in elementary education in Odisha. can be clear from this figure, which shows the gross enrollment ratios at primary and upper primary levels stood at 102.17% and 97.99% respectively. And the trend from 2014 to 15 to 2019 to 20 shows the stability of enrollment at the elementary level in the state. This table showing the share of dropout in elementary education in Odisha just before the COVID-19 pandemic and during the COVID-19. It can be observed from this table that while the dropout rate for elementary sections just before the COVID-19 pandemic in the year 2018-19 was 6%, it drastically increased to 23.39% in the COVID-19 pandemic period 2019 to 20. And this table is showing district-wise dropout in elementary education in Odisha in the post-pandemic period. So we can observe from this table that Kalahandi district has the highest dropout rate, followed by Koraput, and Mayurbhanj has recorded the lowest dropout rate. So government has taken certain initiatives to combat the impact of COVID-19 for the smooth functioning of school education. It has encouraged continuance of midday meal dry rations to school children for the period of 16 March to 13 June 2020 through fair price shops for PDS retailers provided by Odisha government. Then School and Mass Education Department of the Government of Odisha has reduced the syllabus for the academic year 2020 to 21 by 30%. Lessons conducted for 2 classes each day are aired through all radio stations in the state by Radio Parsala and Radio Survi. And a syllabus-based e-learning app in Odia language dedicated to provide mother tongue-based virtual classroom. And around 137,705 teachers are trained through online on making educational videos through smartphone to facilitate Odisha Shiksha Sanjog. So to conclude the study, with regard to the implications of pandemic on elementary education, it has been observed that the pandemic has negatively affected academic expansion, widening existing disparities. For many learners, the sudden shift to learning from home and the challenges of the pandemic has become harder for the students to cope with. Almost all students have experienced some challenges to their mental health and well-being during the pandemic, and many have lost access to school-based services and supports for education. It is true that technology paves the way for education, thus helping the students and teachers to connect virtually through online classes, digital exams, and so on. But the sad truth is that it is not available to many students all over the nation. So there should be digital transformation in elementary education sectors, enhancement in school infrastructure. Government has to increase the budget for midday meal. As remote learning is a challenge for many students in India, there must be improvement in the quality of electricity supply and internet connectivity. Above all, a clear roadmap needs to be developed to ensure that elementary education is inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Shatapadma. Your
Thank
paper has highlighted many problems, and through different sources, you have given us the data that how it has affected the education system, especially education that is achievement of the students. It is good, but we need more data, and in future more data will be available for analysis. 2-3 comments I will make on your paper. One is relating to GER, gross enrollment ratio. In your paper, you have shown that gross enrollment ratio has declined from 109% to 107%, and that you have shown that gross enrollment ratio is declining, and it is a negative sign. No, it may not be, because gross enrollment ratio becomes more than 100 when overage children and underage children are in that same classes. So if that children of overage or underage are withdrawn, then gross enrollment ratio will be within 100. So in that we should not look it as a negative sign. It may be because of at the right age children are coming to the school. That is one point. And then another thing we can see the disparity that children that is girls are not getting equal opportunity, and we need more data to substantiate that. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
with
Yes.
these comments, I request Sitakanta Babu to comment on the paper.
Yeah, so Sweta Padma, it's a very good qualitative effort on the state of elementary education during the pandemic situation in the state. Actually, the methodology section you have written that you have actually, I mean, you have also presented various data from different secondary sources. You have also stated that you have talked to school teachers and parents. I don't know why you have not said this or thrown light on this aspect in the presentation. But since you have mentioned that you have spoken to school teachers and parents and you have made some inquiries, although they are not present in your paper, you you can actually leverage it in the form of a primary survey, because without any quality, as ma'am said, or without any on the ground data, driving these kind of points would be very difficult. So you can actually make those, you can turn those interviews that you have conducted, you have spoken to school teachers and parents in the form of a survey. If you actually make use of that as a primary survey, it will be very highly meaningful, and it will be very nice to do.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes.
Thank you, Sitaranda Babu. Actually, she needs a survey from different districts.
Yes.
Nearby districts, that is Buda, Kotak, Bhubne, Kurda, will not do. You have to take care of different districts. That way, it will be more representative.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, I will request Jyotirmoy Sahu and Kumar Jena to present their paper. Again, it is on education, impact on COVID-19 on preschool education in India, a review. Please.
Ma'am, with your permission, I want to share my PPT.
Yeah, you share. Sweta Padma, you please stop share. Sweta Padma, please stop share your screen so that Jyotirmoy will share her screen.
Ma'am, is it visible?
It is visible.
Okay, ma'am. A very good afternoon, everyone. This is Jyotirmoy Sahu, PhD scholar, Department of Economics, Maharaja Sri Chandra Pandya University, and I have prepared this paper with the supervision of my supervisor, Dr. Pratap Kumar Jena. And the topic of my presentation is impact of COVID-19 on preschool education in India, a review. So before going to this background, I just want to explain what is preschool education. So preschool education is the education which is provided to children of 3 to 6 years through government scheme, private sector, and also voluntary organization. Under government agency, it is provided through ICDS scheme through Anganwadi centers. And private sectors, it has also providing preschool education. So, and preschool education, it helps in preparing both physically and mentally, emotionally to children for later stages of life and later stages of education. Then coming to my the background of this study, education is regarded, as we all know, as one of the most important factors for the development of a nation. And considering the importance of education, many research studies they have advocated for investment in human capital. We know in Indian educational system, it consists of primary education, upper primary, secondary, higher secondary, and then higher education. And primary education is considered as the foundation of basic education. Even though research studies from neuroscience, cognition, and psychology states that the period of 3 to 6 years of a child is very much critical for its overall development, as it has been proved that the brain development of a child during this period is very rapid. But very little emphasis has been given to this aspect in our educational system. There are various studies, they have proved the direct and indirect impact of preschool education on the development of children. Such as a study by Heckman et al. Pointed out that the returns from investment on preschool education are the most cost effective than at later stages of life. It has also reported that preschool enrollment, it helps in future enrollment. That means it will help in improving subsequent enrollment. Then preschool education, it mainly consists of two components like care and education. With regard to low-income countries, it has been found that only 1 in every 5 children has access to preschool education. And considering the very importance, the very significance of preschool education, so in Sustainable Development Goal and Target 4.2, it has stated that each and every children within 3 to 6 years have access to quality preschool education, quality early childhood care and education, so that they are ready for primary education. Then with this background, the main objective of this study to analyze to the genesis and development of preschool education of ICDS. Basically, actually, I am analyzing here the education, the preschool education that is provided by ICDS scheme through Anganwadi centers. So how it is developed. The second one is to describe ICDS and provision of preschool education with a focus on objective significance and the policy supporting preschool education in India. And then how COVID-19 has impacted the preschool education in India. The theoretical aspect, it suggests this theory is supported by human capital theory, and is this theory is supported by the human capital theory based upon the work of Schulz and Becker. Traditionally, economic growth of a nation, it was attributed to land, labor, and capital. But Schulz argued that growth in output, it could only be explained by human capital investment in the form of formal education, skill development, and improved health facilities. And investment in the form of job training, skill promotion, and improving knowledge, it increases national output and also helps in improving and reducing the poverty rate in the country. Since preschool education is regarded as the foundation of basic education, so equal access to quality preschool education, it will influence economic growth as well as helps in poverty reduction. Then coming to the history, traditionally what happened, the total entire responsibility of child development, it was vested upon the family members. The family as an institution, it always gives significant attention and care to the children. In India, preschool education is culture-based and it was vested upon the responsibility of elder family member through dance, song, regular talks, through informal and playway method. However, due to the growing demand for an industrialized nation, a systematic, structured, and well-planned child rearing program has been required. And universal preschool education is a new concept in Indian history, which has started during the 19th century. In ancient times, education was restricted to the male member of upper caste community, where children from lower caste as well as female children, they were deprived of such opportunities. Then after the introduction of Gandhian philosophy of education in 1937, then Maria Montessori's visit to India in 1939, it had laid the foundation stone for preschool education in India. And there are various committees and commissions like the Committee on Child Care, the Kothari Commission. They have also given importance to preschool education. And the National Policy on Education, it has also considered preschool education as a strengthening factor to achieve the compulsory primary education goal. And it also helps in human resource development in general. In India, preschool education is basically provided through various agencies like public sector, private institution, and voluntary organization. Government deliver preschool education through ICDS and the program implementing agency is Ministry of Women and Child Development, government in India. The services of ICDS it imparted through a network of Anganwadi centers with the active support of World Food Program, CARE, World Bank, and UNICEF. In addition to that, preschool education is also provided by private agents, but is supported by high tuition fees, which is unaffordable by children from socio-economically disadvantaged group. Voluntary organizations also play an important role in impacting preschool education. And we can see here from the table that ICDS is the largest provider of preschool education, which covers around 72 million children, followed by private initiatives. And all other scheme or all other agency, their role is very insignificant. We can see here. Then coming to the objective of preschool education, the main objective of providing preschool education is basically to prepare children for later stages of education, to prepare her physically, emotionally, and to develop creativity and to encourage and stimulate aesthetic appreciation in the children. That is the reason for which preschool education is required. Then coming to the rationale, why we should invest in preschool education, why we should give emphasis to the early period, to the early phase of a child. So various economists they have given their opinion, and they have proved that the return from investment in the preschool period, particularly from 3 to 6 years, is highest. No doubt there is some return in the latter stage of education, but the return is highest during the investment in preschool period. And we can also see here that the developmental needs that a child requires from birth through 8 years. From 3 to 6, a child needs adequate nutrition, daycare facility, play-based preschool education, responsive care, safety and nutrition, etc. Then coming to economic case for
I need to intervene you. Jyotirmoy, I need to intervene you. You be brief. Speed up.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. So government intervention, why government should interfere in providing preschool education? So there are so many reasons like unaffordability of user fees, or these are the reasons. So one more reason is market failure. Market failure, and there are mainly 3 reasons of market failure. One is liquidity constraint, second one is externality, and third one is lack of information. So this is the reason for which government must interfere in providing preschool education. And in Indian Constitution, in India, these are the policies that are supporting preschool education, like the National Education Policy, then the Convention on the Right of the Child. It has advocated that it is the right of a child to have access to quality preschool education. Then Education for All, or National Nutrition Policy, and Dakar Framework for Action, Moscow Framework Action, they have also given emphasis to early childhood period of a child's life. Then in various 5-year plans also, funds were disbursed for preschool education through ICDS scheme. Then in new education policy, the draft education policy, it has emphasized the on the early years for a child's holistic development. And it is the objective of this policy is that every child is the age group of 3 to 6 years must have access to safety, quality, developmental suitable early care by 24. I think it is invisible to me. Then coming to how COVID-19 has impacted to preschool education. As we all know that around 90% of world student population, they were disturbed by the precaution and policies implemented to put an end to the spread of the disease. In addition to that, it has a permanent and irreversible and irredeemable effect on children between 3 to 6 years. While every educational institution shut down in March 2020, all of them shifted to online mode during the pandemic. Around 165 million children of 3 to 6 year group, they depend on early childhood care and learning for Anganwadi centers. Actually, they were closed, so they are deprived for their overall development as the Anganwadi centers were closed. Then according to UNICEF also, school closure, it will expose students to multiple risks. It has not only impacted on in loss of their education, but also their psychological problem also arise. Then their physical development, mental development, everything has disturbed. And some of the, it has also pointed out in different studies that they have some behavioral problem also increased, physical activities also hampered, weight, they have gained more weight, impaired the quality of sleep, that these are the things. Then parents reported a complete change in the socio-behavioral pattern of the children also. Then in case of what happened, the Anganwadi workers, they were engaged in providing the awareness campaign on precaution like how to use mask, regularly sanitizing, washing hands. So what happened that they ended up in diverting them from their core job, and they neglected this aspect to give preschool education to children. And we can see here that the enrollment also, the beneficiary of preschool education, from I have taken the data from 2016 to 20, it has declined drastically. From 20 to 22, we can see also. Then it has preschool education, sorry, COVID-19, it has detrimental effect not only on education of children, but also their physical and psychological well-being. And online learning became the sole resort. Find many children, they lack connectivity. And online teaching, it is a poor substitute of classroom teaching, and it proves ineffective when it comes to early childhood education, as they lack real interaction, physical proximity with the teacher and the classmate. Then digital acceptability and affordability, to some extent, it can be good in terms of literacy and numeracy, but the overall development of children, it disturb in when come to the overall development of children. Then Anganwadi center, which in rural area as considered the at the early childhood development center, they were closed, leaving millions of children in rural area without giving them to early childhood education. As we know, early childhood education is a time sensitive matter, and it is crucial not only for the future of the children but also for the entire nation. And what we observed that the total entire ECE, early childhood education infrastructure, it has collapsed under the pandemic. More than 2 years since the pandemic, it has come to India. The question of how to ensure the vital early childhood education to children is looming large. So, and it has been emphasized that early childhood education is reimagined for the short term to medium term by employing all strategies possible, like the need of the hour is positive parenting, how means SOP must be designed, where Anganwadi worker, they give training to parent on how to educate their children. Second is the education through online medium. Then third, Anganwadi worker, they can reach out to children by employing novel approaches and practicing social distancing norm. For children should be reached out by the traditional media like television and radio. And then lastly, government also need to step in by figuring out what is required to be done. Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, Jyotirmoy. Nice issue you have chosen, but the problem in this context is the data.
Yes, ma'am, it is
that is the problem. With this comment, I leave the paper for discussion by Professor Sitakanta Panda. Sitakanta Babu, please.
Yeah, it's a very nice presentation, as well as it's actually a well-written paper. Only thing is, as ma'am said, it's a lack of primary data,
yes, ma'am.
which bothers us. Others, it's a good thing. See, when see in the paper, so you have actually given a graph, but you have not explained it. So it's a very minor thing, right? I mean, you can easily edit it. I mean, we can revise the paper, but that's an example of the example of the broad changes that you have to make throughout the paper. So it has to be substantially revised, right? So like the writing has to be polished. You have to actually, you have to explain why you are writing a certain thing. Like if this paper has said something, why should I cite him? We should cite the paper for a particular reason, right? So
yes,
look at this. So please, I mean, this is a well-written paper, but these are, I mean, in qualitative terms, I have already told you
yes,
what needs to be done. So please.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I thank you all the paper presenters. Now the floor is open for discussion. Any question for any paper are invited. Please. Please, any comment, any question on any paper? Rabi sir, कहतु किछि? Amarendra Babu, do you have any query, please?
No, Rabi sir, Rabi sir पचारନ୍ତୁ sir.
कौन पचारिबे?
जहाँ भी पचारे एते जण प्रेजेंट कले.
No, have you not got any question from the floor? No, please.
I don't find any question in the question answer box also.
Yeah, there are no questions.
Pati Babu, if you have any query.
No, madam, I am not asking any question. If you permit, then we'll close.
Then,
ma'am, I have one question to Tanushree ma'am.
Yeah, please.
Actually, it was a very nice presentation and nice paper. I just want to know that one. You showed the differentiation of the use of smartphone for the boys and girls. What were the components you used for that, Devi?
No, it's just a data shared by that source. So there is nothing as such in component. So it was just mentioned that even if the family has a phone, but still this much % of boys, they have access to that phone whenever they want to, whenever they want the phone, and this much % of girls, they have access to that phone whenever they want to have access to that. So it just there was no component as such in the data source.
Acha, one request to Sarika, please open your video. At least we should see you at least once. At that time you had that tension. That's why I allowed not to open your video. Please open your video so that we can see you at least, if you can.
Yes, ma'am. In fact, between this others presentation, I tried to open my videos, but I don't know how to open this one. There is a 3 dot mute के साथ और एक छोटा सा box है जिसमें 3 dots है. So I don't know where I will click and this video will on. Start video. Maybe this one.
Madam, you can see the left-hand side of your screen. Stop video. One video mark is there. Mute, thereafter it is stop video. You can click there on and it is visible then.
There is a one.
Towards the left side of your window.
Okay. Thank you. No problem. I understand your problem. That's why at that time I did not stress upon that. Okay, thank you. So I must thank all the paper presenters for timely completing their paper, and they have taken their suggestions. Taken the suggestions given by our discussant Professor Sritakanta Panda I must thank Professor Panda, who has done a nice job. And when I was actually out of the connection, he took up the charge. And thank you, Professor Panda. And I thank Professor Pati. I thank Professor Pati for giving me this opportunity, and I also thank Odisha Economic Association for giving me this responsibility. I hope to a certain extent I have done my job, and I request Professor Ponda to say
There's a
few.
question there actually in the chat box.
I see it is my student, Ganapati Mendhali. Could you please let us know what is the long-term impact of COVID on primary education of the state? Ganapati will know it after few months, because unless and until we'll make study on that, it will be very difficult to do that, to tell that. So I'll request Professor Ponda to say a few words, and then we'll give the mic to Professor Poti.
Thank you, ma'am. Actually, in this particular session, we have had a number of very good papers. In fact, all of them are very appreciable and commendable efforts. People have really done a good job. Obviously, all the papers. I mean, every paper, no paper is actually perfect. So there will be peer reviews, there will be revisions. But that said, all these papers have been good works. So I actually congratulate all these, paper presenters. So I think some of them should actually consider sending this to the association's journal, if possible. With this, let me remain. So please.
Thank you. Now it is Professor Poti, your chance.
Thank you, madam. On behalf of the GM University and the Orissa Economic Association, we are thankful to you, Professor Sanjukta Das ma'am, being the chairperson of this session, and Professor Sitakanta Panda, the discussant. You have done justice to your session. You have not only confined yourself to time, you have completed 10 minutes before time, and you have also conducted the session so nicely. All the paper presenters, we are thankful to them. Sojanaran Bispal, Saida Banu, Samapti Saha, Avilasa Tripathi, Asutosh Chotray, Tanusri Das, Swetapadma Naik, and Jyotirmayi Sahu. So thank you for your initiatives, and I'm thankful to the speaker and moderator and the Professor Sanjukta Das ma'am and Professor Sitakanta Panda for the nice conduct of this session. Thank you very much, everyone, those who have joined, and also Amarendra Das sir and other those who have joined this session, Ravi Patra sir. So thank you very much for giving us this opportunity. So now we come to close of this second session, first part of the second session, day 2. We'll again reassemble at 2 o'clock. So 1 to 2, there is a long break of 1 hour. So at 2 to 3:30, we'll have the technical session number 3, so 3.1 and 3.2. Then thereafter the plenary session number 2 at 3:30. Then fourth session, 2 parallel. Then finally, in the evening, we'll have the validity session, and our guests are already in GM University from the RBI. So we'll close this session with the permission of everyone. Thank you so much.
All. Thank you.